It says we're live on 2 different apps right now. Do you think either one is actually working?
My evidence says.
I'm going to end this one. I'm sure I want to end this stream. It works? Wait, do you see me?
No.
Am I a real person?
Wait, it is? Which one? Wait, can you guys see it? Wait, I don't see us.
Oh, yeah, we're just as big of a mess in real life.
Wait.
So, yeah. I know, I said
it's
that somebody can.
Well, I can't.
Yeah, well, you don't need to. You're right there.
True.
You're right there. So I don't know why, because even on my phone, which was like, you're live, it's fine, it still wasn't showing up. So, yeah. Isn't that fun?
How do I refresh? Hey.
Yeah.
I apologize, everyone. I don't know how technology works, as you may have noticed.
Yeah, just facepalm at us. It's fine. We sometimes have our shit together. But we are sometimes boomers when it comes to like this kind of stuff because we don't do it. Anyway, so I know Amber was telling you her story of how she got diagnosed. And I'm Christy. For most of you know us, that's Amber.
Hi, everybody.
And then, yes, we met in college at dance. We were teaching. I hit the desk a lot, so I'm going to try not to do that. And then I actually met my husband at a different dance separately, before we started the NIU dance. And you want to hear it vocally? Okay. You can go ahead and tell yours. I was going to just introduce kind of where we were up to that point.
Yeah, I was planning to like...
Yeah, now that you know.
Tell my story out loud instead of sentence at a time.
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, so we met all of us in college, at a local college in Illinois. So I will let Amber tell her story again, and then I will tell you Brian's a little bit.
Okay, so Amber's story, take 2, the non-text edition.
Yes, all you.
Okay. So my first introduction to the concept of autism was in probably, I'm guessing, late grade school. My mom got this book. She's a big reader. I was a big reader before the internet over my life. But I used to be really into books. So there's this book called There's a Boy in Here that was written by a man and his mother. It's a pretty cool book. They alternate chapters. He was nonverbal as a child. So, and he was eventually got a lot more, more verbal, certainly. And
just better at communicating?
Yeah, better at communicating as an adult. So he was writing chapters about what was going through his head, and then his mother would like write a chapter like the same time period, like what she was experiencing as a mother with this nonverbal child that she couldn't get through to. And it was a really cool book. So my mom read this book and she's like, oh, you need to read she wanted me to read the book. She wanted, I think, every person she ever met, she has forced this book on. Give or take, like, seriously, like 20 people. She became obsessed with this book. So she was convinced that my brother and I were autistic, and that so was my dad, and so was everyone in my dad's family. And back then, it wasn't really seen as a spectrum. It was either you were autistic or you weren't. And if you were like profoundly handicapped. My brother and I were in the gifted program. Like, we had some friends. He had a lot more friends than I did. But yeah, so I'm like, no, we can't be autistic. We're fine. And like, we were verbal and we were adjacent. I'm not going to say we were normal. We weren't.
Well, I mean, normal, so subjective.
Right. But when it wasn't seen as a spectrum, we're like, I'm like, yeah, this can't be a thing, Mom. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, so then
that's my story. Yes, that's your.
So that was the book. So for diagnostic stuff, I was sure I had depression, probably anxiety. I was diagnosed with Okay, so I went to college. I'm trying to remember what I can remember my story.
You're fine.
Okay, so I go to college for psychology because I don't understand people. I think disorders are fascinating. So, and even in the textbooks, and traditionally autism's and all of medicine has been very focused on the male perspective. So everything I'm reading about autism, in my child psych books and in class, it's mostly boys because they get diagnosed 4 times more often than girls, even with the same symptoms. They're better at masking.
True.
So it's boys, and they present very differently than girls. So that was just kind of, I didn't fit that criteria. I was seeing a psychiatrist for depression when I was in college, and she was the best. Okay, so I'm seeing a psychiatrist for depression, and a month or 2 before graduation, she suggests that she thinks I have ADD. Again, traditionally in textbooks, it's usually a boy disorder, and they're usually very hyperactive. I'm not very hyperactive. So I was like,
you don't have
I don't have the hyperactivity part. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. And she's like, oh, but wait, let me explain to you how this actually works. And that there's an inattentive subtype where you just have the attention deficit part and not the activity part. So I'm like, oh, it was a huge diagnosis for me. So much of my childhood just sort of shifted into focus in a way that I hadn't thought about things before. But unfortunately, it was too late in the school year for me to get in for testing. I was like, all right, well, once I graduate, I'll get a job, I'll get insurance, and then I'll get tested. So I do that eventually.
You're fine.
Okay.
You just keep talking. I'll tell you if you need.
Okay, thanks. Not that I have an attention problem or anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I get tested. It's very expensive. Still cost me $600. America. Yeah. So I have the diagnosis of ADD and attentive, which makes sense. So then what am I going to do about this? Tried a couple different medications. None of them really helped. And because they had a relatively expensive copay and didn't do anything, I gave up on the med route. Well, maybe I can get counseling, but that was not something in my price range at the time. So I just kind of let it go. And I did find out much later that there's a ton of crossover in symptoms between ADD and autism, particularly in women. So that's the thing. Okay, so ADD. Okay, fast forward a couple years, I'm trapped in a horrible marriage.
Yeah, real quick. Amber was married. It did not go well.
It was real bad.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll hear more about that down the road too as you get to know us.
As we dive into more trauma.
Well, it's not all trauma.
It's not all
Some
trauma.
of it's really good, but
True.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at my wife's friend's house. The friend is a special ed teacher, and she knows that I really like cats. She also likes cats. She has some cats and some dogs.
We both really like cats, hence the
name. And there will probably be cats wandering in and
yeah.
out. And there's a kitten earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she hands me this book. It's a children's book. I think it was called All Cats Are Autistic or All Cats Have Autism or something to that effect. I believe there's also one about dogs and ADHD. That's just kind of a child-friendly way of explaining the symptoms and that it's not horrible. So she's like, hey, you like cats? Check this book out. Now, I have to wonder. I think she knew. I haven't asked her. I probably should. Because, I had, between my ex and I, we had 4 cats at home. So it's not like I needed to look at pictures of cats because I have a bunch of cats. And she had actual cats there. So, so I think she probably saw something, being that that's her field. So anyway, so I'm flipping through this book, And each page I'm like, holy shit, this is me. And my whole life just sort of like became really clear. And I was like, oh my God, my mother was right.
Oh, the worst moment ever.
I know. And now I just have you to be right about everything.
I am.
She is.
So
it's
we're clear.
Obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, when your best friend and your husband both say the worst thing about you is that you're right all the time.
Always, and it's horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is handy.
It is. You might not want to listen to me, and you might not want to admit that I'm right, but
we always end up admitting it.
Right. It's because I just am really good about thinking things through and how they affect things long term and short term, which has helped, with being married to somebody who's neurodivergent, because we're able to like find ways to handle things that other people don't know or wouldn't think about. But anyway.
Okay. So read the book. Like, holy shit, this is me. Autism isn't like, I think it's maybe I don't know if it's a little better now than it was, or I just am more involved in the community. I mean, like, Greta Thunberg didn't exist, and Temple Grandin, and like there weren't. It wasn't really talked
around, but not.
But it wasn't really talked about back then.
No.
Like, I couldn't have told you at the time, and this would have been.
Well, I'm gonna say with social media, everything is a little bit more out there, as we hear.
This would have been probably 6 years ago, because I've been divorced for 4. We'll split up for 4.5.
Yeah.
So probably 5-6 years.
Yeah, because it was pretty close to the end, I feel like.
Yeah, there was.
When you found out.
Yeah. So, because it was 6 months before I told her. So, yeah, we're probably looking at like 6 years ago. So I didn't know a whole lot about autism. Again, I knew it was like mostly boys and it was bad. I mean, it's not like actually bad. But like that was the view I had at the time.
And so the view a lot of people have.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to use a campaign to get people not to vaccinate, like it causes autism, you treat it like, there's nothing worse that could possibly happen to a human being than being autistic. Oh my gosh. And it creates this fear behind it, and not just behind getting it, but behind admitting it.
Right.
For people.
Yeah, because it's not great to hear a lot of parents say, I would rather my child die of a preventable disease than to be like you. Yeah. Because that's what they're saying, and that's not great.
No, not in any sense of the word. And I wish that they each could meet somebody and have to really understand what they're saying, like how they're presenting this to a person. Yeah. Like as, wow, it is so bad to be who you are that I'm going to let my kid get the measles. Like, it's ridiculous. And bullshit. It's just bullshit.
Agreed. So it wasn't, so it wasn't portrayed well in the media or society. And I was also incredibly depressed during probably all of my marriage, really my whole life up until divorce. Which we'll, I'm sure, go into in another episode when we talk about meltdowns and depression and burnout. So, but anyway, so I wasn't in a great place already. And then to find this out, it was not great. So I wanted to find out what I could. So I because I'm me, I still have every textbook I've ever purchased. Except for maybe some math ones. I'm going to get rid of those because I know I never use them. But I still have all my psych books. So I started researching what I could at home. And I was like, oh yeah, this actually does make a lot of sense. I guess I wasn't paying attention in class as much as I could have. But I thought that there was something wrong with me. So I was scared to tell anyone. So it was about, I want to say 6 months-ish between when I figured it out and when I finally got up the nerve to tell my wife. Mm-hmm. And initially she acted supportive, but I would often hear snide little comments about me not being normal, which I'm not, but like she wouldn't always say it in like a nice or joking way. It started to get kind of shitty. And at one point she did say, really, our marriage was not in a great place in general. And I don't want to go into the whole story of that because most of y'all probably know it. And if you don't, it's a dumb, bad story. If anyone really wants to know about it, I can go into it, but I don't think anyone cares.
Well, I think there's a benefit to talking about it later on when you want to talk about like the pitfalls of a relationship.
Sure.
And where you can get to the point of not standing up for yourself and things that like that and what that can lead to.
Sure.
But I think that has its place down the road.
Okay,
so.
Fair. So she did eventually comment that it could never work between someone like me and someone that was normal. How on earth she qualified herself as normal for anyone that has met her?
A lot of people think that they're normal, and they are not.
Yeah.
They have other issues they just don't want to talk about.
And I think a lot of it, she very much had like this victim complex. She always had to be the most disabled, the most broken one in the room. And I think she saw autism as a threat. Like, oh God, you have this thing that might be worse than my things, and then I'm going to lose attention.
Yeah.
Because that was her particular pathology. So marriage wasn't in a great place. One day I came home to a note on the dining room table that she had cheated on me. So if you're together for 6 years, leaving someone a note is like not great. Like maybe have the balls to tell them. But she didn't, and that was really a surprise to no one. So I'm now being broken up with. I honestly didn't really want to be in the marriage, but it was a very scary time for me being alone, and I didn't know what to do. My biggest concern was, where am I going to live? How am I going to take care of myself? I don't make a ton of money. I live and work in Rockford. It's not like the very safest city in the whole world in my price range. Right. Like there are certainly parts of Rockford that are really good, but they cost more than the parts that aren't as good. And when you don't make a lot of money, it gives you some limited options. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Christy was literally the only person that offered to let me stay with them while I was going through this. So
I thought it seemed pretty easy. I was like, you need to get out of there because I think too many people stay too long in a situation that isn't good for them, and then it can suck you back into it. Right.
And thankfully,
but I didn't need it. So
no, thankfully my ex was traveling for work at the time, and she stayed with. Turns out, the girl she cheated on me with, I didn't find that out till a couple of years later, but she went and stayed with her for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So that gave me time to find somewhere to move to, get my own apartment. So it was like, I think a month between when she told me we were breaking up and when I had moved into my new place. So we're talking about autism, not about my shitty marriage. So I'm convinced there's something wrong with me. I need to tell someone about this autism thing because I don't know what to do. So I go to Christy, and I'm like terrified to tell her.
Yeah, you have this huge, big news, and I'm like, oh my God, someone's dying. Because I'm like, oh no, what's going on? Like what happened? So emotional.
I'm autistic.
And I was like, oh yeah, Brian's autistic.
I was like, wait, what?
And I'm like, have you met him?
Yeah. You know. Yeah. Now that you mention it, I totally see it.
Yeah. Like,
how did I miss that?
Yeah, I think
because he's also verbal, and that wasn't what the textbooks told me to expect.
Right. Yeah, people act very surprised when I tell them or we mention it that, like you're on the spectrum or he's on the spectrum, and it's like, hence the spectrum part of it.
Right.
Because it is. It's this, big thing. And I know that his experience was so vastly different to most people's autistic experience growing up because he didn't feel as isolated or like he was weird or different.
Sure.
And, he didn't have issues dating or any of that like social stuff. And I told him the reason he didn't have those particular issues, especially with dating, was that
he's cute.
He was attractive.
Yeah.
It just came down to the fact, and that's terrible, that he's attractive enough to get girls to hit on him without him having to do anything.
That's true.
And the fact that he got into dancing with his first long-term girlfriend, he had a pool of people, and he's quite a good dancer.
He really is.
And so he dances with people, and they like instantly fall like in love with him, and he's attractive, and he's nerdy, and he's a nerdy science guy, and so they just assume he's a nerdy science guy and has that like awkward smart guy
that's
thing,
now,
you know?
like, so
that's autism.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a lot of those things, a lot of those really smart people fit on the spectrum. Not all of them, but
sure, because again, it's spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure that my husband was on the spectrum when I met him. I didn't think about it for a very long time, but I will make sure that you finish your story before I get into ours.
So I tell you,
yeah,
and it feels so much better because, like, oh my God, you don't hate me.
Yeah,
because like everyone that I told, I was like freaking terrified. Like honestly, so when I was married, my ex kind of like gaslit me into being a lesbian. I swear to God, like I was so fucked up back then because like I was in such like this lifelong depression spiral.
Okay, wait. Does anyone in chat, have you ever been gaslit into any kind of different orientation? I want to know. She wasn't a great person.
No,
You're right.
She was a very bad person.
Owaba? Is that how you say that? Owaba Jack?
Wabba, I'm guessing.
Wabba?
He used to have a rabbit named Jack.
Ah,
so I'm guessing that's where it came
from.
Like
a wabbit? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I want to get names right, you know.
Yes. And thank you for buying me breakfast post-divorce, because I remember right after my divorce,
oh, very nice.
That member of chat had bought me breakfast, and it was on my work desk.
Yeah. See, people are nice.
You know, so I've been terrified to, yeah. Oh, hey, someone else was gaslit. Cool. So not just me.
Okay.
But yeah, she like constantly hammered into me like how horrible and evil and bad boys were, even though she was also super misogynistic.
Yeah.
Like she's also the most misogynistic person I've ever dated.
That's the weirdest
part. Because she was so shitty to me for being a girl also.
Yeah.
Hey, we got another person. Yeah, so yeah, where was I going? Okay, so it was scarier for me to tell people that I had autism than to tell them that I was gay. Though it turns out I'm not gay. But
well, I mean, you technically are, because if you're bi,
I'm partially gay.
Right. But you have preferences, but that still is
sure.
That's not like a hetero, you know, you're not just a cis person either.
And really, like, going from bi to gay, like, that's not a huge leap, because and I wasn't.
Okay, yeah. So, but you were never a lesbian.
No,
you were always bi.
I was tricked into,
which is still part of the gay spectrum. So yes.
Well, sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, anyways,
so 60-40. maybe 65-35.
It depends on the day, honestly, and the person. I've really gotten into Supernatural, so it's like 90-10 straight at this point.
Well, that's because of the persons you are thinking about, right? Isn't that really how we all are?
No.
Because I saw a picture of Kit Harington, and for that moment in time where he's getting ready where he's in Pompeii, and I was like, I'm 100% straight right now because he is beautiful.
Huh. I have to watch it. So yeah.
But I definitely then also look over and see a beautiful woman, and I'm like, I could do that.
Right.
Right? Like, they're not,
you throw you and Brian in front of me, I'm like, all right, I'm 50-50.
Like, it's some of his personality.
Yeah, it just depends on where my eyeballs are aimed.
Okay, so any other part of that?
The whole point of that was that it was a lot scarier for me to come out as autistic than it was to come out as gay.
Yeah.
Because I was more worried about people's reactions, telling them that I was autistic.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stigma also with the, are you sure? Because you seem so normal. not you, but you seem so normal.
Sure.
You're not this thing or that thing. And that does really affect how people are towards you.
Sure.
Because there's, I think, a huge misunderstanding just in our culture and society right now about, autism in general and how that affects people rather than seeing it as just another almost like aspect of your personality that is not good or bad. It just is.
Sure.
Oh, well, I could see that being trans is a big thing. And of course, Valkyrie, that it depends on who you're coming out to. Because
That's
if you
true.
have a family that's all a little weird and they don't really know what autism is or care, they might be harder to say I'm trans than it.
Oh, it turns out Mom was right about Dad's family too. Like with that lens.
Yeah.
Like, they're all on the spectrum.
Yeah, but not necessarily.
Well,
because
maybe
here's
not
the thing.
all of them, but I see a lot of.
You can see a lot of things, and I will a little bit. It's definitely weird. I first started dating Brian. Oh, are you done? I want to respect that. If you come up with other things while I'm talking,
I've just continued to be autistic.
Yeah,
come to terms with it.
You
There's
still
lots
continue
of topics,
to this
but
day. They haven't fixed you.
No, I haven't solved. I haven't solved the autism dungeon puzzle.
Did you try any of that MMS detox? I hear it works miracles. Right?
We'll see.
Family and my family knows that they're weird, so I don't even think it would be that awkward to talk
Does your
about
dad
it.
know?
Oh, my dad, I think, knows that he's weird in my eyes. Okay. So, but I love them. I mean, they're still part of my life.
Sure.
They shaped me into the weird being that I am today. Sure. So when I first started dating my now husband 17 years ago, well, I guess 16 years ago in college, we were friends first. And mostly because his name was Brian, and I dated a bunch of Brians in a row, and I didn't want to date another Brian. And then I'd found out that he, before he moved out to the Midwest, had broke up with somebody when he was moving out here. And I do not do rebound at all. I'm too old for the drama. Even at 21, I'm too old for the drama. I don't want to deal with it. So he has this very big personality on the dance floor. Mm-hmm. So the person that my husband is on the dance floor and who he is in person are very different, when you get to know him. And so that was a big adjustment for me when we started dating. I actually kind of thought that he was nerdy and he was smart, his science-y. Oh, yeah. And that, the ex's name. Yeah, both of our parents married somebody who also had one of our other parents' names. So, our child had 8 grandparents and 6 names, which was really weird. This is Cleo. You say hi, Cleocatra?
If anyone wants to adopt her.
Right? She's going to be hopefully going back soon. So anyway, I actually kind of thought that he was a sociopath. That was kind of with the information that I had, that he was a sociopath or somewhere on the narcissism side of things. He never seemed to want to harm anybody, but he definitely had that, doesn't really think about other people.
Sure.
And so I was not everybody who are on these kinds of have these mental disorders are bad people. Some of them just have these quirks that you need to work out. No. And now Cleo is chewing on a cord.
Sorry, I should have left her out there.
That's okay.
Honestly, I thought it was the other kitten.
Leo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always want to call Theo. Okay. I can't keep track of their names.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio. DiCaprio. Sorry, DiCaprio.
I know better.
So
here he is. Hey, speak of the devil.
So anyway, I thought he actually had a different disorder going on. This is Leonardo. We call him Leo. Leo, not Theo.
He's much better than his sister.
Yeah, his sister is still eating cords. Come here. come here. And she disconnects my stream, and yeah. I'll see you camera.
Yeah, you chill over here.
I was actually okay with it. I kind of thought, we all have things going on. I have anxiety and stuff like that, and people are like, "Are you sure you have anxiety?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm pretty sure that I could give you a whole story. I knew from a very young age, but it just wasn't a huge deal. So when we had our child, you could tell like he cared, but there was like this disconnect between having our child and like how I expected things to be and how he actually acted towards her. Well, them. And then over time, I could see how much he did care, but it wasn't, I don't even know the words. It just wasn't normal.
Sure.
But I knew that he wasn't like a danger or he didn't care. I knew all of that wasn't true. But then we got a cat. And immediately, Milo and they were like soulmates. They fell in love. And my husband started acting totally differently. And then it kind of like flipped a switch in my head that says, so he does get it, but not with people. Mm-hmm. So he has this connection. He's able to connect, but he's not connecting to me or our child in the same way that he can connect with this cat, which is kind of a weird thing that they're both related to cats. I mean, this thing, but
I 100% get that.
Yeah,
I've always understood cats so much more than people. I can read them better. Like
you just
can read them. People, I don't fucking know.
Like, I guess the best way I could describe how Brian, which he gave me permission to use his name.
Yeah, I was screwed on you for so long.
I know. I was like,
we're not supposed to do that.
I know. I was like, I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you, because he had just told me that our kids scared him, more than anything else. He had just this fear surrounding having another human. And with the cats, he just was him, and it was okay. And then I started kind of connecting all of these dots and looking, what? I don't know what that is. Okay, so I'm going to say that they don't matter. Anyway, so that was when I started to look into it more, because I was also one of those people who had seen and was taught that if you're autistic, you're not verbal, but if you are verbal, it's in a way that isn't how a normal person would be. So a smart person wouldn't be able to communicate in such a way. And obviously Brian didn't have as much issue with the eye contact. Some, but not enough that you really notice.
Okay.
And so I just kind of put all these things together. And then slowly over time, because Brian doesn't do well with like big news, like I kind of just started putting that information in front of him.
Sure.
To say, I think that this might be your problem. And that if it is, we can not necessarily change anything, but we can change a relationship to fit what will work better. And we did, while we were more newly married, see a marriage counselor. But I think that actually getting the diagnosis, like having a diagnosis, was the biggest change for our relationship, because it gave me a respect and an understanding of how his brain works. And so I am better about not taking things personally. I'm not always good. And that's, where Amber comes into this, because I oftentimes will message you at all times and say, yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah, I'm sure it did take a lot of practice. Reckless.
Yeah, it takes me about a decade to really get comfortable with eye contact with someone.
Yeah, like is it better for those who are neurodivergent? I guess, is it better with people or just have you trained yourself to do it too?
It's like this really weird vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been dating my current boyfriend for 5 5 months now,
Mhm.
ish, give or take.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that something like that?
I don't know.
Sorry if I'm saying it wrong.
There's
but
no
like,
personal offense there.
but like, I can't hold eye contact with him for more than like 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, I could
don't
look at
take
you
it
all
personally.
day.
Yeah, and I don't take it personally if you
but
don't.
it takes me like a decade to get there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah.
It is a lot easier for me with people with really dark
Valkyrie
irises.
Valkyrie said it's easier for people that they know. I just didn't know if it's more about training yourself to look, we could talk about ADA in a minute because that's part of it, or being less vulnerable with somebody makes it easier because you don't feel.
I think it's probably both, because it does make you feel very vulnerable. So like to have sustained eye contact, it has to be someone that you trust.
Okay.
But I mean, you can train, like you can do uncomfortable things just by like practice,
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be either.
Yeah, social. Okay. Oh yeah, the questioning.
Yeah, I have no idea how long you're supposed to look at people. Like, am I looking too much? Am I looking not enough? And then that's all you're thinking about, and you're like, oh God, I haven't heard a single word they said, because I was thinking
thinking about what they said.
Am I doing human right? I don't know if I am. I don't think I am. Oh God.
With cats, it's a show of dominance, so if you look away, then they have won. I mean, maybe just embrace that. Well, they don't care.
They don't care.
Okay. Yeah.
I appreciate those memes so much. I am on TikTok through her.
Oh, okay.
I do not have a TikTok, but she sends me the good ones.
Well, I have a kid for the TikTok stuff. They kind of find out what I like and then hook me up.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know, I set it up because I want to be able to type here, and I was like, okay, where can I put the camera so that it can kind of be okay, and if Amber doesn't feel like looking into it, it's close enough. But
I don't know. I'm supposed to look. I've been looking at us.
You're actually supposed to.
I'm supposed to look at the
you're supposed to look in the camera.
Sorry, everyone.
Hi, I'll just.
Hi, camera. I forgot the camera was there.
Yeah, I think.
Oh goodness.
You're staring to.
I'm a mess.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like if you start. Okay, I'll use this as an example. There was this one girl who I absolutely adored. Her, at dance, but she had the death stare. You would dance with her, and she wouldn't stop with constant eye contact the whole time.
It's so creepy when people do that.
It was she's an amazing dancer, amazing person, but she would just stare, and it was so awkward. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I am very neurotypical in that sense. And I can't imagine feeling that way for so many moments of my life. Because I would imagine that, how she made me feel in that moment is probably equivalent to how you feel with just short eye contact type things. So anyway, but yeah, so Brian and I did a lot of research. I'm big into learning everything that I can. And we slowly started to work on things in our house, and how we talked is nowhere near perfect. I will never pretend, because I still overreact. He will say something and I will say, I know he didn't mean it like that, but my brain heard it and it was bothered. And my feelings are hurt.
To explain.
So I will.
He didn't mean it that way, I promise.
So yeah, I will text Amber and say, this is what he said. And she will try to talk me down a little bit. And I'll say, I know, it just sucks right now in the moment.
I know.
We'll talk about it. And then that was where kind of this idea came from. I said, what do people do who don't have an Amber? And are married to somebody.
Or people that don't have a Kristen to explain how neurotypical people are supposed to behave.
Like, yeah, I mean,
so explain peopling to me, because I don't have a good handle on it.
Well, I mean, I guess none of us have a really great handle, but there's some translation. It's a translation.
Yeah.
So Amber translates for me when I need it, and I can translate for her.
Yep.
And I think that is kind of why we wanted to provide
this service to everybody.
Yeah. And we're mildly entertaining anyway. I mean, when it works.
They haven't logged off yet, so I mean, that's
that's because they know us, and it would be rude.
That's true.
Everybody who doesn't know us is like, we're out.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, it's okay. And considering all the technical difficulties, I really appreciate you guys.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you, Amber, for typing.
Oh,
your little fingers off.
Yeah, sorry it takes forever because I was using my phone. I'm going to do this one sentence at a time, so it's like less lag.
Yeah, so you constantly get something. So with all that, we are going to talk a little bit about ABA, just to get it out there, and maybe not as much as we had planned. But so we might actually do some more on Sunday just to get enough.
Sure.
Hopefully that will be good for a video on demand for people who want to explain it to others. First, ABA, for those who don't know, is Applied Behavioral Analysis, which is basically psychology, supposed to be psychiatrists what started it, to teach you how to behave a certain way. Originally through pain. Electroshock, now through positive reinforcement. It's basically used to make sure that people behave a certain way and are rewarded for that behavior.
Yep.
And it is pretty much the gold standard of therapy for autistic children. And now there are autistic adults who are now old enough that have gone through ABA and said, this is abusive, we need to stop doing this. And it doesn't seem like at least even the American Psychiatric Association or the UK version of that have listened to these adults and decided to change things.
What would autistic people know about autism?
And that's the problem, is in so many of these groups there isn't any autistic representation to even fight for this change.
Yeah.
Because there are options. I think actually things like occupational and speech therapy might be where you need to start.
Sure.
But I think the problem is, and I will let you explain kind of what you have in a second,
sure,
is that all the other therapies require work from the parents. And parents don't want to deal with the effort to make their home a better, safer place for their child or spouse or anybody who doesn't fit into what they think is normal. And they don't want to deal with it. And it's easier to just get someone to comply.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it is still the standard, but.
For sure. Yeah, there's, I'll say I don't know a ton about it. I've never been through it. I haven't been through any therapy or any intervention things for autism.
Well, because if you're diagnosed as an adult, there aren't any.
Yeah, there's really not.
Let me see if I can find a.
So there's a huge split in opinions on ABA and autism. For the most part, parents of autistic children think it's great and wonderful because it basically is a tool to force compliance and try to shut down any autistic behaviors and just make your kids seem as normal as possible. But it does not take into account the needs or wants of the child. It's just about doing everything they can to crush them into compliance. And it's really intensive. They take these little kids and they're doing this for 30 to 40 hours a week every week.
I read that they're supposed to start at 2 or 3.
Yeah, because
20 hours a week for 2 or 3.
Are you looking for the article that I sent you?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm in one of the autism groups that I'm on Facebook, which has been really where I've gotten most of my resources and has been the most helpful thing for me besides talking to Christy. Just talking to other autistic adults, because turns out there are some of them out there. Turns out y'all are some of them too. Not all of you, but some of you, which is cool. It's cool to not feel as alone. Where the fuck am I going with this story?
Well, you were talking about how intensive it is. So
yeah,
the 40.
Okay. So I was watching the videos and they just crush the spirit of these little kids. In this episode,
yeah,
we're not really talking about stimming, But for those of you not familiar,
I lied. I can't find it. So
okay.
You can when we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So stimming is it's self-stimulating behavior. The like stereotypical one that you see is like hand flapping is one that like comes up a lot, or like kids that like wave their fingers in front of their face a lot. And those aren't things that I do. I do a lot more subtle things like finger rubbing, and I've got my spinner ring.
More fidgety.
Yeah, like fidget spinner stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a thing to help calm and center autistic people. And like in all the videos when the kids like move their hands at all, like the therapist just like pin their hands down. And I can tell you, my ex used to do that shit to me, and it made me so anxious and so upset, and I hated it so much. Yeah. And so they keep doing that to these kids, and then like, to me and to a lot of the other autistic adults that had watched it and given feedback on the video, it looks like the therapists are kind of attacking the children every time they do something right. Like they're so enthusiastic, like they grab them and shake them, and they're like enthusiastically.
Look at me, yeah.
Like they think it's positive reinforcement, but to me it would just be so ungodly overwhelming. Yeah. These poor kids, that's so much sensory everything, like tackling you.
And you have like they have this really high voice and they talk really fast and they'll be like, okay, put the pen, we're gonna put the pen over here. Okay, and then they'll take their hand and they'll put the pen over here. Good job, now you get this. And then
they like shove a toy at them and then rip it away. You're like, here's a toy, okay, next task. And like, it's so much like yelling and grabbing and noise, and it's so much. And these poor kids are just, oh God, I was feeling traumatized just watching them for a couple minutes.
Yeah, and we will put a link to the article that we were talking about that has some of these videos that you can watch to see. I couldn't find it in my phone, but Amber has
I started a folder with all my autism links. Yeah, and I knew I'd never find them otherwise.
I did that on my computer, but we had to restart that a few times, so it's probably easier not to like touch it right now.
I don't
to look for anything.
I don't know how to do it in the chat, but I can send it to you.
You can do that, or just have to do a link. So
sorry, I'm very old. I don't know how technology works.
We'll get there. It's first times, you know.
Bookmark.
I said sometimes we're very boomer-like when it comes to technology, but we embrace it. We don't try and pretend like we're not.
It's true. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm doing because.
Yeah, but that's the thing there are several videos that are demonstrating the correct way to do this with children, and there's a lot of touching. There's a lot of high voices, a lot of talking, a lot of energy.
Do you want me to put it in the chat? Is that where I'm going?
Yeah, if you go, you have a link?
Yep.
So you just paste it right there.
Yep.
If any of you are interested, that was is a really good, concise way of putting it, and it has a few.
It's a good article with videos.
The video's in there. The first one is long, but it shows you exactly what a good therapist would do. And I did read a lot of people on Reddit where they went through this as kids, and they were like, I still have PTSD, and I still have so much anxiety wrapped around doing tasks or not stimming that I actually get more anxious than I think I would have if I hadn't had any therapy at all.
Yeah, I'm grateful that I never had to go through that.
I make a lot of mouth noises. I'm sorry. I gotta stop that. Yeah.
I have noticed this of them. So,
I know, but the mic picks up stuff. When I was testing out this mic, it's a good mic, but I could hear a kitten peeing in the other room with the door closed, and I was like, oh shit, they're gonna hear everything that's happening in my house.
You know, I'm like worried about the ice in my glass.
I know,
I pick it up, I'm like
I'm gonna go like really, okay, back away while I swallow. So sorry, but yeah, there are good ABA therapists. And I know some are not as overwhelming as they used to be, and some
I think
come into the home and spend a few hours.
Right place, I think.
Yeah.
Like their general idea, I don't think it's a good idea, but I can see where it comes from.
Yeah, I think that ultimately they should be in there to teach kids who do have autism how to handle any behaviors that not are unseemly but are dangerous. If a kid's stim is headbanging, then that
you want to try
is a
to
problem.
Modify that to something else
because they could hurt themselves. But hand flapping, that
doesn't hurt anyone.
It's just distracting.
Yes.
But
that's what my ex used to say, because like I tend to like rub my fingers together, like play with my nails, and she'd be like, I can see that out of the corner of my eye, and she'd like hold my hands down, and then that would just make me so much more upset.
And I
don't restrain
totally 100%, I'm gonna call myself out here. I am not good. I have I have really good hearing, so I hear everything. And my husband is a tapper. He will tap on my head, my back, the surfaces all around, and it bothers me. And I'm like, you need to stop. You need to stop.
That would drive me
and
nuts too.
I am trying really hard to be more respectful when he's doing it quietly, to not say anything. Because for a long time, I didn't realize that what he was doing was actually stimming. I didn't think about it in those terms until much later on, which is my own fault too for not thinking about it. And I noticed that like when he can't do stuff with his hands, he will do something like rub his feet. And and the thing is that things can be annoying. Okay, I get annoyed very easily, but if I have a reason that somebody is doing that and they're not doing it to be annoying,
right,
I am able to step back and really say, okay, what can I put up with? And now if he's not freaking, tapping my head, I'm like, okay, I think I'll just, I'm trying, and I'll turn up my music or the show a little bit more. And, Valkyrie, the bouncing, I mean, even sometimes I do that. It's like you're just sitting there, keep moving. But I wish that it became therapeutic for somebody to go in to teach the parents how to say, this isn't harmful, and that, okay, they're doing this because there's anxiety.
Right.
So we see this as anxiety, what's causing it, and what can we calm down.
They never look at like the root of the kids' issues. It's always just how can we crush them into compliance right now? Like they're upset, don't care, they need to complete this task. And it's not like how can we maybe make it a little easier for them? Like maybe they can't move the pen over because I don't know, there's a bright light shining in their eyes.
Right. Or just you staring at them.
Or
a therapist they don't know.
But they never ask like, child, what is making you like what can we do to help you? What's
right. And obviously if you have a nonverbal child,
you can't do that, but
then you can work out a way to help them communicate. Is that talking? Maybe not. And maybe talking will
figure out what our cats need, and they can't like give us sentences of what they need.
But now with technology, I mean iPads and voice stuff, text to voice and things like that. They have opportunities.
If you give a shit, there's a way.
Right. That isn't that hard. And if that kid comes, starts typing things, well, first of all, they'll probably learn to read and write a lot quicker because they need it, because these kids want to communicate.
Right.
You might not have the words in a moment, but you want to communicate with somebody. And that, how are they being forced to talk isn't going to help everybody. It just isn't.
Right.
I know if somebody told me, talk right now, I'd be like,
About what? Why?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you catch somebody off guard, then that's kind of what you're doing to these kids every day. Is just staring at them, shouting, do it now.
And like they'll eventually do it because that's the only way to make it stop.
Yeah.
Like
it's like torture. Yeah.
Right. So this was rated mature, right?
Yeah, it was. So rated. I rated mature.
Okay, good.
I knew.
Okay, because here's a thought that popped into my head today. So when they talk about like usually women faking orgasms, most women will tell you they do that because they just want it to stop.
Yeah.
And it's very
It won't
much
be
like
over.
the kids complying. They're not doing it because they're enjoying it. It's just the only way to get you to quit coming at them.
Yeah, I just want to be left alone. Can I have my toy?
Like, please just, this is the only way to make it stop, is to just pretend to do whatever the fuck you want me to do because I just need this to end.
Yeah. And how many of these kids go home and then have a huge meltdown?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and can't do anything else.
Especially when you're making a little kid do this 30, 40 hours a week.
Right.
Like, that's insane.
That's equivalent to sending you into a retail job and making you eye contact and touch every customer that came in. Imagine you had to hug every person you didn't know and do sustained eye contact for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, that would not work for me.
Yeah, you would deal because you had to, yeah. And then
I would internalize it all, and then I would mistakenly think that I had depression for 30-some years because I had internalized all of these meltdowns, and I was just in a constant state of burnout.
Yeah,
because
your body, if you have that anxiety for so long, your body just kind of shuts down. Yeah. So yeah, so it's absolutely, then it is depression at that point. It becomes that depressive episode, but not because you have clinical depression.
Right.
Which is different.
Is what I had always thought until I realized my triggers, and then I was just like internalizing meltdowns and burnout. And once I got a handle on that shit and figured out my triggers, I'm like, oh, I don't actually need to be medicated anymore.
Right. So,
I can actually feel things.
The worst part about talking about ABA is there's really nothing at this point that we can do. None of us in this small group are going to be able to fix the system. But I think that if you know people, if you could just make them aware, or if it ever comes up, just to be educated about what's happening, I feel like it's important. Yeah. Because the more people who know how adults feel about these childhood therapies, and the more educated we are as a whole, the more we can talk about, is it right or wrong to do something?
Sure.
You know, even though it feels like we just dumped all this horrible grossness on you with nothing to do about it.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, isn't that part of education? It's like politics. I can't do anything about it, but I'm going to tell you what's going on.
And still get upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that I messed up my hair, you'll be staring at it. Oh, sorry. Whatever. I don't care. It's like, it's just all over there.
It's fine. Just grab a kitten.
And give myself like Farrah Fawcett wings and string or something. Yeah. So if you guys have, hopefully it'll be less laggy and we won't have as many issues Sunday.
Yes, but 1 to 3 is our Sunday.
Yes,
time.
Central. And we're happy to answer questions too. Obviously, this is a pretty long intro and plenty of technical issues to go around, and we appreciate everybody for sticking around too. Yes. But if you have any issues, or just specific questions,
or any topics that you want us to touch on, right. I've got a couple pages of them written down, but I'm always happy to add more.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research about Autism Speaks and better. Which will be a whole thing on its own.
Spoiler alert, they're not great.
And our goal is to, if we're going to talk about ABA more or Autism Speaks, is to be able to cut down to a good video on demand that you could share with people if they don't quite know. Not that, we're licensed therapists or anything, but just an overview of what's going on. So if they're interested, they can do more research. They can say, okay, but what's both sides of this? I just think that when the adults of a given group say this is wrong, we need to learn to respect that and stop acting like they don't know what they're talking about.
Right. Yeah. I think the best way to figure out how to help autistic kids is to talk to autistic adults and say, hey, when you were this age, what would have helped you?
Yeah.
Stop in that book that my mother was obsessed with, where this kid's like, here's what I was thinking and here's what would have actually helped me instead of these horrible therapists.
Right. Because the thing is that
someone that's been there.
Yeah, it helps in the short term, and what we see is a compliant, happy child. And so everyone thinks it works. But they started doing this in the 1960s. And how much has changed? Only the fact that they no longer do electroshock, but they do a reward system. But if that's the only thing that's really changed, when
not great.
The whole idea and concept around autism has shifted so much. I mean, I was reading the Hans Asperger, thing that he put out for autism, which Asperger is named after, and he considered it psychopathy, like that, and it's no longer considered that. And if you started a therapeutic system thinking that you fit into one category, and then you shift the category because you're like, wow, it's not really the case.
Right.
It's more in line with anxiety and brain disorders and things like that aren't as severe or dangerous, but you don't change what you do about it. That seems really
not helpful.
Not helpful at all. Not helpful at all.
To be super articulate about it. Seems not helpful.
It seems like a really shitty idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, there's a lot of good information in the link. Somebody that compiled, so check it out if you're interested in seeing it in action too. And then obviously, Valkyrie, you said your cousin does it. You can maybe ask them if it's similar, because some of those videos are older and maybe things have drastically changed.
And they may have. I don't know anyone personally that's gone through it. I haven't gone through it. I just know the things that I've read about and the videos I've seen, which it's not a ton, but not great.
Yeah, they don't paint the prettiest picture, but if we're not dealing with it ourselves, is also a tough sell. So, was there anything else you wanted to say about ABA? No?
Not really. I did listen to a podcast about it today where they had some ABA therapists on, and they seemed to be operating under the constant assumption when the child wasn't immediately compliant that the child was lazy and just was trying to be difficult. That was the whole thing is, they're not doing it because they're lazy. Well, okay, but like maybe they have other shit going on, and like maybe you're trying to force this kid to do this for 8 hours, and maybe they're hungry, maybe they're scared, maybe they're tired.
Yeah.
Maybe you've crushed their soul. Like.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'm hoping once we can get this actually working and not lagging too much and stuff. I have some old commercials from Autism Speaks that really show you kind of maybe where that mentality comes from, where people are like, this is a real issue that means that you need to go live in a home because you'll never be a member of society that matters. It's kind of the attitude that they all very much had, which
that doesn't surprise me.
I think it's such bullshit. I get so mad at anti-vax groups because I'm like, my best friend and my husband are two of the single greatest humans on the planet. And if I am not with Brian, I don't think I could be with like a neurotypical person, because I just appreciate the way that you guys' brains are different. Like I like learning about that. I like the honesty and the forthcomingness, even though it does hurt my feelings.
Traumatic. We don't mean it that way.
I can't make my feelings not feel that initially.
Right.
I can think about it, but
that's fair.
Yeah, the phrasing matters. I'm gonna say some of the stuff that Brian has said. The way he said it was a problem, and it's how
that's why I'm like, whoa, don't get divorced. Let me translate. Hold up, that's not what he meant. I promise.
I'm like, if he meant it that way, I am not sticking around.
Hold on.
Yeah. Because I am very much, I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me. So I'm kind of like, if if it's not good for us to be together, we shouldn't be together. So I'm like, if I'm like holding him back, so then I get all like crazy paranoid friend, and I'm like, should I just like let him be on his own?
Calm down, take a deep breath.
I know, I don't. And telling someone to calm down.
I know.
Always works.
No, I don't think I do that because I know better. Like, hold on, let me see if I can reroute this phrasing.
Yeah. I feel like I need to move you closer to the mic because I'm too loud. I'm a loud person.
Sorry.
That's because
I'm going to pull my chair because my feet don't reach the ground.
I come from a family of New Yorkers. All I know how to be is loud.
I do not.
No, you're quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just have a mic head. So.
Well,
We'll work it out because I keep
figure it out
leaning
one of
this
these
way.
days. Which way should I?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Just like
Fair. We could just
it was
cuddle.
so exhausting.
This has been an adventure. We
Yeah.
have gone long. Do we want to stay long because we started
a little
late?
bit? Does anybody have any questions about the stories or where we are?
Is anyone sick of us? I'm like, God, can these bitches just shut up? I mean, I guess you can log
if
off
they,
if that
they
was
can
your
log off.
that's true.
We've gone up and down on viewers, so there's definitely been some
Fair.
people who are like, no, thank you.
Fair.
But also we're lagging a lot, which bothers people. So.
True. And we are an acquired taste. I can get that, like, not everyone's going to be on board with the...
Yeah, and fair warning, nothing is off limits. So, raising ferrets. Okay. It's been interesting. You'll learn a lot very quickly because there's like nothing that we won't talk about. And
That's true.
that makes people really uncomfortable.
That's true.
But
which is kind of fun for us.
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
not great for keeping viewers, maybe.
It's not. Do you have it?
I haven't done ferrets.
Yeah.
We've done sugar gliders.
Yeah, sugar gliders
They're
are
horrible.
stinky.
Don't get them.
They
and they will
smell.
shred the shit out of your skin. Oh my
Because
god.
you can't like
Oh my
trim their
God.
claws or anything. So
Ugh.
sugar gliders are a no.
Their claws are meant for trees. Your skin
Actually-
is not made out of bark,
Yeah.
so that shit hurts a lot.
The kitten cage that we have is actually a ferret habitat. So these are ferret. It's Ferret Nation. So here.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Here, I can come around this way. You don't have to see me want to do this. But this is, you can stack them. So if you can see that. So this is 3 layers and they come with the shelves and little ramps for them and stuff.
Nice fellow kittens.
They're really easy to keep clean. So I think get a Ferret Nation cage. That is my number one. I use them for keep.
Who knew we were also going to be a ferret podcast?
We could. I mean, pets.
We'll pretend to be experts on any of this shit.
It's true. If you don't need a licensed therapist or a licensed ferret giver, we could just bullshit to you.
True.
Like we know what we're talking about. No, but they're really good quality cages. And like I said, it is what they use. Oh, you just want us to be like, yeah, ferrets are awesome. They're slimy little rat rodents. It's fine.
I have no experience with ferrets, so.
They kind of creep me out.
The way they move is very creepy.
Yeah, I get that they're not mean, or
Sure.
any, unless you mistreat them.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't had one either, but I feel like that
Okay,
sometimes
yes.
there are more work in that range, like bunnies and stuff can be more
It
work
seems like
'cause
the
they're harder.
smaller animals are, the more work they have.
I feel like there's like
Anything that lives in a cage.
Yeah.
Yes, they are kind of stinky, and that
Yeah,
part
I feel
is
like
not
there's
great.
that in between, like
stinky,
little
creepy.
things can, kind of not too bad, and then a lot of work in that middle group, and then less work as you get bigger to
Yeah.
the cats and dogs.
Oh, I just remembered. I was having flashbacks of sugar gliders.
Oh, sugar
They're also really, really into oral sex.
glider. Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah. If you
It's
thought that shit was a
fucking
sin.
disturbing. Like, you put them in separate cages and they're like sticking
Trying
there.
to, yeah, through.
It's a lot. And also, they don't so much eat their food as chew all the moisture out of it and then spit it out.
Okay,
So
yeah.
be prepared for your walls, floors, cages to just be covered in chewed up food chunks while they
Sugar
just go
glider.
at each other
Yeah.
constantly.
When we got the sugar gliders,
They were a lot.
they were a lot. They were so fun and they were so cute
They
and
were.
everything.
They were very cute. They were, they
And
were fun,
but I was pregnant, and the smell, I was just like vomit every time I went near them. And that was why we're like, Amber, do you want them? Because I can't.
like, yes, I do.
And they were like, no, I don't.
I'm like, oh boy. This is more than I thought I signed up for.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, you kind of
It was an
know,
adventure,
but there was 2 of them were nice. The one was an asshole.
Yeah, he was. He was
Yeah.
very bitey. He didn't get to come out of the cage much.
No.
Or if he did, I'd have like one of the other ones go find him. It was cool though, because like sometimes they get lost in the house and I tell the one to go find the other, and because they're so social.
Yeah.
They just
Like,
go find them.
and then- So you see them and you're like, they're so cute. And then you get one and you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really.
And
I
then,
don't endorse those guys.
yep. No, we had hedgehogs for a while, but our kid was allergic to a hypoallergenic pet, so that
That
figured.
makes sense.
Yeah, we're weird in this house. Yeah. The suppliers?
Oh, yeah, I sold them to some lady. I don't know, I put an ad.
She sold them to some unknowing.
Well, it was a lady that said she had them before.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine,
yeah.
fucking take them. Like, get these little shits out of my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was in college at the time, so I was living with my grandparents, and I think I had posted, like, in the school newspaper or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Or something, I don't know. Cause,
tortoises are more my speed. I loved having tortoises. Then they got stolen. Well, they were outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone stole
That was a bummer.
Yeah. I bought the one on the black market. How am I going to get another one? I didn't. You heard nothing. Yeah, they vanished very quickly for tortoises.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I tend to like reptiles. So I guess in the furry community that would make me a scaly.
Oh God.
Yeah, there's lots of them on Twitch, so we don't want to make them look bad. Okay.
No, I mean
furries, we love you.
I mean,
watch our show.
Y'all do y'all, but
well, yeah. They're making you do it.
That's true. Yeah.
As long as you're like
not my
adults.
Thing, but I'm not here to kink shame.
Not everything is about sex, Amber.
Okay, but like furries kind of.
You've been married. You know everything isn't about sex.
That's fucking true.
It's true. Once you get married for a while, maybe.
Depends on who you're married to.
I want to. That's true.
Very different experiences. With
if
marriage.
I talk about sex enough, maybe my family won't watch this.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
And I'm totally up for talking about whatever. And we can make this a sex ed podcast with autism.
We should probably do one of those too.
Yeah. People don't have enough sex ed. Which we all know is the truth. Yeah. Eventually we'll figure out how to stream. Like
consistently.
Like regular young millennials and not like the old end of millennial.
Yeah. Can someone send a young person to help us?
Yeah, and it could be, our internet not working the best or something too.
But on all of them.
Yeah, you just double fun.
I guess.
Maybe it thinks you're like in there twice because you refreshed. I don't know. Oh, now we're stuck.
Oh, wait, what? No.
Sex talk? Yeah, sorry. So if that bothers you,
sorry.
Beware.
I forgot something.
Should we do earmuffs?
Some of my coworkers are listening. I should probably be.
Oh, they already know.
Off the clock. They've met me, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say they've met. So we're probably, if nobody has any questions, we will probably go for tonight just because we're lagging and it's been a mess.
And some of us do have to work in the morning.
Yeah. So we will try to get all this stuff worked out and not have this. But like I said, if you see us going live, I will try to put test and cross our fingers. Thank you guys for coming.
Yes,
we really
thanks
appreciate
for hanging. Please let us know if you have any any topics you want to talk about, any questions.
You can also send whispers on here if you have questions, but you don't want like your name out there for who's asking.
Oh yeah. So. And we're both on here.
Thank you. Thank you, Spartan Killer. No real names.
That's true. It's a delight in real life. We're both on here individually too. I am Jessica.
We can link that I think a little bit.
And we've got
it was interesting.
Yeah. I
Hopefully.
mean, you usually don't get like an oops all text edition of oops all captions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you guys have a great night. You guys are all awesome.
Yes. Thank you for bearing with us.
Yeah. I would do hearts, but my hands don't work that way.
Yeah, mine do. I've never done that before. I don't know.
I do hearts like this.
How do you like that? Is that good?
Okay.
I'm old. We're too old for this shit. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, that's just our end.